Hey Rayleigh and anybody else watching, and welcome back to another message from your father. So we are continuing Job. Today is Job 5 through 8. If you remember last time, we've been looking at Job's situation. So we saw the introduction with Satan speaking to God, and God says, hey, have you looked at my man Job? He is a holy and righteous man. And Satan says, well, yeah, that's because you've sheltered him. You've given him everything. So God says, do as you will, and Satan does. And immediately, Satan kills off Job's children. And then Job still refuses to curse God. And so then God says again, see, he hasn't cursed me. And Satan says, well, yeah, you've given him his health. And God says, don't take his life, but you can have control over his health. And so we see Job getting sores and scraping himself with pottery, and still that deep, deep lament for his children. Today, we are going to look at the continued conversation that we saw yesterday, and that was with his friend Eliphaz. We're going to see Job's response to Eliphaz, and then we're going to see Bildad speak. And we'll talk very briefly about that. So Job 5 through 8 today. Chapter 5. Again, this is Eliphaz speaking. Call if you will, but who will answer you? To which of the holy ones will you turn? Resentment kills a fool, and envy slays the simple. I myself have seen a fool taking root, but suddenly his house was cursed. His children are far from safety, crushed in court without a defender. The hungry consume his harvest, taking it even from among the thorns, and the thirsty pant after his wealth. For hardship does not spring from the soil, nor does trouble sprout from the ground, yet man is born to stumble, as surely as sparks fly upward. But if it were I would appeal to God. I would lay my cause before him. He performs wonders that cannot be fathomed, miracles that cannot be counted. He bestows rain on the earth. He sends water upon the countryside. The lowly he sets on high, and those who mourn are lifted to safety. He thwarts the plans of the crafty so that their hands achieve no success. He catches the wise in their craftiness, and the schemes of the wily are swept away. Darkness comes upon them in the daytime. At noon they grope as in the night. He saves the needy from the sword in their mouth. He saves them from the clutches of the powerful. So the poor have hope, and injustice shuts its mouth. Blessed is the man whom God corrects. So do not despise the discipline of the Almighty. For he wounds, but he also binds up. He injures, but his hands also heal. From 6 calamities he will rescue you. In 7 no harm will befall you. In famine, he will ransom you from death, and in battle from the stroke of the sword. You will be protected from the lash of the tongue, and need not fear when destruction comes. You will laugh at destruction and famine, and need not fear the beasts of the earth. For you will have a covenant with the stones of the field, and the wild animals will be at peace with you. You will know that your tent is secure. You will take stock of your property and find nothing missing. You will know that your children will be many, and your descendants like the grass of the earth. You will come into the grave in full vigor, like sheaves gathered in season. We have examined this, and it is true, so hear it and apply it to yourself. Chapter 6. Then Job replied, If only my anguish could be weighed, and all my misery be placed on the scales. It would surely outweigh the sand of the seas. No wonder my words have been impetuous. The arrows of the Almighty are in me. My spirit drinks in their poison. God's terrors are marshaled against me. Does a wild donkey bray when it has grass, or an ox bellow when it has fodder? Is tasteless food eaten without salt, or is there flavor in the white of an egg? I refuse to touch it. Such food makes me ill. Oh, that I might have my request, that God would grant me what I hope for, that God would be willing to crush me, to let loose his hand and cut me off. Then I would still have this consolation, that my joy in unrelenting pain, that I had not denied the words of the Holy One. What strength do I have that I should still hope? What prospects that I should still be patient? Do I have the strength of stone? Is my flesh bronze? Do I have any power to help myself now that success has been driven from me? A despairing man should have the devotion of his friends, even though he forsakes the fear of the Almighty. But my brothers are as undependable as intermittent streams, as the streams that overflow in darkness by thawing ice, and swollen with melting snow. But that cease to flow in the dry season, and in the heat vanish from their channels. Caravans turn aside from their routes, and they go up into the wasteland and perish. The caravans of Tema look for water. The traveling merchants of Sheba look in hope. They are distressed because they had been confident. They arrived there only to be disappointed. Now you too have proved to be of no help. You see something dreadful and are afraid. Have I ever said, give something on my behalf? Pay ransom for me from your wealth. Deliver me from the hand of my enemy. Ransom me from the clutches of the ruthless. Teach me, and I will be quiet. Show me where I have been wrong. How painful are honest words, but what do your arguments prove? Do you mean to correct what I say and treat the words of a despairing man as wind? You would even cast lots for the fatherless and barter away your friend. But now, be so kind as to look at me. Would I lie to your face? Relent. Do not be unjust. Reconsider, for my integrity is at stake. Is there any wickedness on my lips? Can my mouth not discern malice? Chapter 7. Does not man have hard service on the earth? Are not his days like those of a hired man, like a slave longing for the evening shadows, or a hired man waiting eagerly for his wages? So I have been allotted months of futility and nights of misery, and have been assigned to me. When I lie down, I think, how long before I get up? The night drags on, and I toss till dawn. My body is clothed with worms and scabs. My skin is broken and festering. My days are swifter than a weaver's shuttle, and they come to an end without hope. Remember, O God, that my life is but a breath. My eyes will never see happiness again. The eye that now sees me will see me no longer. You will look for me, but I will be no more. As a cloud vanishes and is gone, so he who goes down to the grave does not return. He will never come to his house again. His place will know him no more. Therefore, I will not keep silent. I will speak out in the anguish of my spirit. I will complain in the bitterness of my soul. I am the sea, am I the sea, or the monster of the deep, that you put me under guard? When I think my bed will comfort me, and my couch will ease my complaint, even then you frighten me with dreams and terrify me with visions, so that I prefer strangling and death rather than this body of mine. I despise my life. I would not live forever. Let me alone. My days have no meaning. What is man that you make so much of him, that you give him so much attention, that you examine him every morning and test him at every moment? Will you never look away from me, or let me alone even for an instant? If I have sinned, what have I done to you, O watcher of men? Why have you made me your target? Have I become a burden to you? Why do you not pardon my offenses and forgive my sins? For I will soon lie down in the dust. You will search for me, but I will be no more. Chapter 8. Then Bildad the Shuhite replied, How long will you say such things? Your words are a blustering wind. Does God pervert justice? Does the Almighty pervert what is right? When your children sinned against him, he gave them over to the penalty of their sin. But if you will look to God and plead with the Almighty, if you are pure and upright, even now he will rouse himself on your behalf and restore you to your rightful place. Your beginnings will seem humble, so prosperous will your future be. Ask the former generations and find out what their fathers learned. For we were born only yesterday and know nothing, and our days on earth are but a shadow. Will they not instruct you and tell you? Will they not bring forth words from their understanding? Can papyrus grow tall where there is no marsh? Can reeds thrive without water? While still growing and uncut, they wither more quickly than grass. Such is the destiny of all who forget God, so perishes the hope of the godless. What he trusts is fragile when he relents, when he relies on a spider's web. He leans on his web, but it gives way. He clings to it, but it does not hold. He is like a well-watered plant in the sunshine, spreading its shoots over the garden. It entwines its roots around a pile of rocks and looks for places among the stones. But when it is torn from its spot, the place disowns it and says, I never saw you. Surely its life withers away, and from the soil other plants grow. Surely God does not reject a blameless man or strengthen the hands of evildoers. He will yet fill your mouth with laughter and your lips with shouts of joy. Your enemies will be clothed in shame, and the tents of the wicked will be no more. So again, we have just harsh words and some heavy interchanges here. There's something that the notes had mentioned that I thought it was really interesting to bring up, and that is, let me say that right, 6, 9, and 10. So chapter 6, verse 9 and 10. This is Job talking. Actually, it starts at 8. Oh, that I might have my request, that God would grant what I hope for, that God would be willing to crush me, to let loose his hand and cut me off, then I would still have this consolation, my joy in unrelenting pain, that I had not denied the words of the Holy One. And that is incredibly sobering. And the reason that that's sobering is Job knows that he can't hold out like this forever. He wants God to kill him, to finish him off, so that he knows, hey, before I died, I didn't discredit God. I didn't stop giving God glory. He killed me off, but I did not stop giving God glory, even to my last breath. But he's not getting that. So that just shows some of the depth of his sorrow. And I mean, we're going to continue to see, obviously, so much of what he's going through mentally, physically, emotionally, and because of his friends, due to his responses to them. But that brings up the question as well, is Eliphaz wrong? I mean, there's a lot that Eliphaz has said, but Eliphaz says in 5:17, "Blessed is the man whom God corrects, so do not despise the discipline of the Almighty." Is he wrong? I mean, what he's talking about here is generally the wicked and foolish do not prosper. Somebody who's foolish isn't wise to train their children, and therefore their children suffer. Somebody who's foolish, generally, their finances aren't strong. Generally, they don't have control over their house or their estate. Generally, those people don't succeed. People who are wicked, same thing. Generally, that's the case. So when he says this to Job, then it's really tempting to think, hey, don't spur the correction of God. But is this the correction of God? Again, we've already seen the character of Job. God holds him up and says to Satan, hey, have you considered my man Job? He is holy and righteous, and there is none like him. So is Eliphaz wrong here? No, he's not. But my prayer for you, Rayleigh, is part of that, is that you recognize that somebody can be doctrinally correct. Somebody can be correct about God, but they may be presuming to know exactly what God is thinking. So when you look at this, my prayer for you is that you don't be so presumptuous to know exactly what God is thinking minute by minute. Do not speak on God's behalf unless your speaking coincides with Scripture, and be very, very careful about that. I mean, people have been doing that for ages, saying, hey, here is what God says. And some of it may be true, but it may be pulled out of context, or they may be presuming too much. I mean, that's something that we always want to be very, very careful about. And that's why it's always so important to point back to Scripture. Eliphaz isn't wrong here, but in this instance, he's not right either when he presumes that God is punishing Job. Anyway, that is part of my prayer for you, long-winded as it is. Know that I love you and I'm praying for you. Anyone else joining, as always, I appreciate you so much. And I'll plan on seeing you tomorrow. Have a good one.